Okay, class, so my strategy was entitled Vocabulary Self-Collection Strategy. And basically, it is a student-driven vocabulary builder. I decided to do this as a how-to guide for each of you to use in your own classrooms. It really requires group work, and it was a little difficult to get a group of students to participate. The school where I teach just began session again. We are a continuous learning or year-round Project Lift school, and we just started this week. So I just started classes today and didn't really get a chance to even delve into actual lessons. But this is the quick rundown of how you could actually use this in your classrooms. Why vocabulary self-collection strategy? The key purpose of VSS is to motivate students to learn new words by promoting student-driven selection of course vocabulary and encouraging its integration within their own vocabulary. So basically, in essence, you are getting your students to choose words that they think will be important or that they find of value, and by doing so in groups, you will allow them the opportunity to have a say in their learning process. How? First, you need to model this strategy for your students. Thus, begin with a reading assignment. Once the text has been read, the teacher chooses a word from the text and introduces it to the class. So I'm going to demonstrate. This is a screen capture of Scholastic Arts book or magazine, and in it I'm focusing really on this section right here, painting private lives. And in particular, this is the section that I want to read aloud, but in essence the students would read this entire page and they would choose their words. But in order for me to demonstrate, I'm going to focus on this word, wash. So basically it says Peyton uses a wash technique, adding layers of thin, almost translucent paint. Her loose brushstrokes create abstracted backgrounds, like the trees in this work. Then she adds more specific details to the figure in the foreground, highlighting the model's most recognizable characteristics. In this painting, Peyton shows the figure's red lips and blue eyes with great detail. So the key word here is wash. And in reading that passage, hopefully students will get an idea of what a wash is just by the context of the word and the usage. So step one, after you've read the text and selected a word, which my word was wash, I would then answer the following questions for the class. One, where is the word found in the text? And to go back, basically it was found in that section that I read. What does the teacher think the word means? From the way the context was framed, basically a wash is a very light, translucent type of paint, where it's kind of either watered down or materials have been used to make it almost see-through. Why did the teacher think the class should learn this word? And that could be as simple, since I teach art, we might be moving into using washes in the classroom. And so that students know exactly what a wash is, they have some sort of background understanding of not only what it is, but how to create one and what it looks like. And so again, just to kind of point back to the section I read, it basically talks about what a wash is, how the technique was employed, and how students could actually get an idea of what a wash is without me actually having to explain it to them. So once that process has been adequately modeled and there are no remaining questions, the teacher would then divide the class into 2 to 5 groups, basically depending on the size of the class and the age group involved. older kids, you might be able to break them into smaller groups, whereas younger kids, you might want to use maybe 2 or 3 groups. Each group will read the same passage of text and choose a word or a group of words that they would like to focus on. Step 3. Each group at the end then presents their word to the class, answering those same 3 questions that I answered. The word is then recorded on the board for display. A dictionary may be checked for word meanings to see if they came up with a similar understanding of what the word means when necessary. Students' prior knowledge is applied in the discussion. So in the passage that I read, students will have painted and have some understanding of different ways to apply paint. So with the clues that were given in that little section, they would be able to pick up on the fact that a wash is a lighter version of a solid paint. Step 4, the teacher can use those generated vocabulary words in follow-up activities. Some ideas are having students act out those words and then guess the word being enacted. Sponge activities in which they quiz each other. And using graphic organizers, to name a few. And this is an example of one way that you could use what students have written on the board. This way they get to keep a log of all of the words that they've learned. Perhaps another group came up with the word that they thought, oh, we should have thought of that word. That is a very important word that we might need to use later on. And so they would jot that down as well, and why it was selected, why that group said it was selected, and what the definition was that the class determined. Follow-up ideas. Teachers can include notes on students' participation during discussion, and that can provide valuable insight on their progress. Those notes can be for you, or they can also be for the students. Students' reasons for selecting certain words also would reveal a lot of information about their prior knowledge and understanding of words and concepts. So if you see your students are really struggling with words that they need to come up with, then maybe the information that they are currently reading, what you have done to lead up to it, might need to be read more or talked about more, or more discussion on it, so that they have a better understanding of where you're trying to kind of steer them. At the end of each week, teachers may do a quick assessment of students' ability to apply their understanding to the words they selected. And there, the goal is really, the more students do this, the better they get at really not only just selecting words, but also in being able to decipher what those words mean. For example, you could have students create sentences, or you could provide the sentences and then ask students to fill in the blanks using context and their word list as a guide. It could even be done as quizzes. So there's lots of variation to how you could actually utilize this. To get even more understanding, you may also download my PDF of the actual steps a little more in depth and broken down a little bit easier to understand exactly how to follow this particular strategy. I think this would be great for really 5th grade on up, and really probably depending on the maturity level of your students, maybe even 4th grade. But I really wouldn't try it too much with younger grades, because a lot of them are still forming understanding of vocabulary, writing, and those type of necessary skills to actually follow this strategy and do this strategy well. Hopefully that helps, and maybe some of you guys can apply that in your classrooms. I'm hoping to try that with my 5th graders.